This is Barrie, a city constantly evolving. At any time, a whole host of pressures challenge the intricate tapestry of city government. In this series, we will explore the priorities deemed essential for progress, even if they don't always inspire unanimous applause. Join me each week for a candid conversation with a member of our city government as we uncover the stories behind the scenes of Barrie, a city on the move. Welcome to Barrie, City on the Move. My name's Arif Khan, and it's my pleasure to be joining you wherever you're receiving this content, at home, on cable, online, streaming. Thanks for joining. In this series, we aim to discuss the inner workings of City Hall operations and the way the City and Council deliver services to ensure that you and I, as residents, have a great quality of life here in the City of Barrie. And today, Mayor Nuttall joins me. Mayor, thanks so much for being here today. And I'm looking forward to speaking with you as we're about to end the spring session and go into the summer season, do a bit of a wrap up on the session, on the many projects that you've been working towards. And I think today we're really theming this moving forward, but we'll add some color to that, effectively, efficiently delivering on the promises and the commitment that you and Council have made to deliver on that quality of life. So thanks for taking the time to join me today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me today, Arif, and it's good to be back. And it's been very busy over the last little while, but that's a good thing, not a bad thing, and we're ready to start, I would say, hitting the road with some of these things that we've been talking about for the last 2.5 years now.
Yeah, it is amazing, and I think for some context, it is amazing the amount of due diligence, the amount of planning and budgeting, and you know, while you've got some longer term projects that may live and sort of continue to be developed beyond any one council's term, there might be change in office at some point in there as well. So you're looking long term for the benefit of the residents in the city that you're serving. And then there's how do we make it happen with fiscal restraints, with tariffs south of the border or impacting our ability to do the work, with obviously cost fluctuations. How do you sort of move the puzzle pieces around to work with the budget that you have to get some of these sizable, considerable projects done that people are calling for, that they want, but you have to do it in that sort of responsible manner. Before we get into any of the specific projects, give us an idea of what those last 2 years have looked like, sort of moving those pieces around.
Well, I think a lot of it was figuring out where the city was at on projects. There was a lot of things that were communicated that were going to happen over the last 15 years that just never happened. The Southeast Rec Center, perhaps we're talking about the Performing Arts Center, full festivals and arts in the downtown at Meridian Place, trying to activate the downtown, working through some of the issues that we have with homelessness and security and safety. There was a lot of talk about it, but we've actually been able to start moving these things forward. And that can only happen when you have a good council that's working together, that are really trying to deliver on the quality of governance and the quality of life in the community. So it's a good thing so far.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you a seemingly tough question, and it's not meant to put you on the spot, but it came to me and I'm going to give it to you because I know you can handle it. Who do you and Council serve?
Well, I think that is pretty easy. I mean, you serve the public, you serve the residents of the city of Barrie, and it's amazing what we're able to do when you have the community and you have the council and you have the staff in the corporation, the city of Barrie, all working in one direction.
Yeah, and that has been something that you have had to work on continually with the different stakeholders who represent maybe either the whole or maybe some particular groups that they are passionate about serving and representing, and make sure that they get their voice. And it hasn't been easy because you as a council and as a mayor made a commitment to not just sort of kick the can down and let someone else deal with it, but you decided, listen, we have a moral and ethical responsibility to do it, and that hasn't been easy, I know.
Well, look, I think that the first thing that we did in the city of Barrie was that after the election was to get our finances put back together. You served around the council table. You know how difficult it has been for the city of Barrie. We haven't had the appropriate funding put into capital projects. Those are the things like roads and rec centers and the items that the public can live and breathe and that build community. And we've had a lot of funding put into City Hall for the expansion of programming and for different things from programs to support those on the streets to increased staffing to arts and culture and I would say rec as well. But what we really wanted to do was to kind of turn that upside down and say, look, we're going to invest in the public spaces that allow our community organizations like Rotary clubs and all the other different service clubs and the different sports and arts organizations to be able to take advantage of them. And I think that what that's done is allowed us to right-size our finances. In the last in this 4 years, and I can't say what our returns are going to be for 2025 or 2026, but in this 4-year increment, we're going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of $120 million in investment revenue because we put the investment board in place. We're going to have another probably $50 million or $60 million actually through focusing on capital rather than going through operating. What that does is that it allows us to reduce our debt, and then it allows us to invest in the things that people want us to invest in. So I think we're in the neighborhood of $40 million in debt reduction in the last 2 years, and at the same time you're seeing us move ahead with projects. And you say, well, how can you do both at the same time? Well, that's because we've stopped allowing City Hall to grow, and we've said we're going to invest in public infrastructure instead. And so I think that's a lot of the conversation we're going to have today.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a belief and a philosophy you cannot save your way into prosperity. And so what I'm hearing is, well, one, as you said, you've not allowed City Hall to grow, but you're also making these investments so that there can be a return on investment.
Absolutely.
And then that return, if I'm hearing you, that return goes towards debt reduction as well.
Well, yeah, I think there's a few things. We've been canceling capital projects that don't make sense. You know, some of these projects were put in the hopper 20 years ago, and something else has happened in between. Let's get those out of the way. When you look at the Performing Arts Center, and we'll get there and talk about that in a few minutes. It started at $165 million budget, something like that, $167.5 million. We're going to be having that down to $75 million, so it's a $92.5 million savings. The rec center, by moving 2 into 1, we saved about $80 million. There's different projects around the city that you'll see that we've been able to either fold in and find efficiencies. One is the Spirit Catcher Park. We've taken that out because we're putting the Performing Arts Center there. So now we can take that $8.7 million and we can put it into the Performing Arts Center to see that happen sooner. So I think for a lot of years there was a lot of plans sitting on a lot of shelves. But what we've done is we've prioritized the ones that make sense for the city now, and we're moving forward with them.
So I'm hearing a theme here, and let's get into some of these. And I think the first thing to talk about is the fact that there has been the conversation, whether it's statistical or whether it's perceived, around the concept of how safe is our community, and what is the level of engagement with residents in the downtown core. Downtown's being known as the heart of a city, a gathering place for the city, and we do a lot of effort to try to promote it. But the question is there buy-in? And so one of the first projects that I'd like to talk about today is the idea of safety, and the city has worked hand in hand. Full disclosure, we both sit on the Police Services Board in Barrie, but a cooperative effort between the city and the police service regarding the safety of our residents in the downtown and sort of a radius within the downtown. And one of those projects also includes encampments and working with people who are living on the streets and finding themselves spending a lot of time in the streets and how they interact with the public. But I know you're very proud of this initiative. You decided again to not just continue to kick it down the curb, but to take a proactive, make a proactive effort towards really finding balance, compassion, and working with members of the public.
Yeah, I think when I was elected, it's going to shock you, but when I was elected, there was 0 police officers downtown because the idea was that the social services were going to make it all work, right? And we know that didn't work. If you look at the evidence of the number of individuals and all of those types of things that were living rough, living on the street, homeless, whatever you want to use to describe it, dealing with addictions and mental health issues, they just kept going up. And so for me, when I look at the downtown and how we're going to move forward, it means that we need to focus on having a secure and a safe place. That's where we bring the police presence in. In 2023, in the summer, we moved 2 individuals down there. That increased to 6 for last summer in 2024. Then we had the harm unit go downtown, which increased it to about 12, I think, downtown. Well, this summer we've added another about 8 individuals, and without the harm unit, we will be in the neighborhood of 17 officers in the downtown and the proximity around that. That's a major move forward. I think that the police and the city are working hand in glove, quite frankly the province as well, because we wouldn't be able to create the safe spaces in public parks without the province stepping in, bringing forth legislation and working with us. So I think that there's been a lot of good that's happened, quite frankly, over the past 3 years to create balance on the subject of policing, social services, and public spaces. And it's very important to me that we have safe public spaces downtown and in our parks, and it's very important that we have the right services available for those dealing with addictions, dealing with mental health issues, and living homeless. Yeah,
and I think it's also important to emphasize, and you've made this very clear yourself, as has the chief, as has the board as a singular voice. The goal is, compassion, yes, absolutely. It is not meant to be targeting and sort of oppressive in nature. It's relationship building in nature. It's ensuring that those who are in need are getting maybe referrals or access to services. Yes, there's some enforcement, absolutely. It is offside to be consuming certain substances in public, plain and simple. So there's a see it, seize it approach. But I believe, if I'm hearing correctly, the idea is that it's targeting behavior more so than an individual or a particular group of individuals.
Right. Well, the police aren't there to target individuals, right? The police are there to ensure that the laws of the land are being followed. One of those laws is that we don't allow for substance abuse. And we definitely don't allow for that substance abuse to be in public. And we definitely don't allow for that substance abuse to be done in kids' playgrounds, right? And public spaces downtown. Yeah. So, the police have a tough job today because the governments of the day let this slide so horrifically to the point where we have a massive problem. And now going back and creating enforcement where there hasn't been enforcement for the last number of years is a very difficult job. I tell people, look, we can't undo 10 years of looking the other way in downtown in 1 year. As we all know, it takes a very long time to build something, and it's really easy to break something, right? So we need to move quickly. We need to move with intention. We need to move following the Constitution to allow individuals to have the right to find the life that they're looking for. But we also need to ensure that the rights of individuals, children, are not superseded by the rights of those who are experiencing addictions. That makes no sense to me. That an adult with addictions rights would be put ahead of the innocence of a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old trying to go down a slide at a park. Not in Barrie. That can happen other places, but not here, not anymore. So we're moving in attention on that. But I think, this subject is so broad for downtown. Like, if you look at what's happening right now, yes, it's enforcement with the police services, but it's also ensuring we have that heart hub that the province has funded with us, that I lobbied incredibly hard to get the funding for. We went into Barrie Park. We provided about 2 weeks worth of let me help you get space so that you can have an actual roof over your head that's not a tent in a public park. And through that process, one of the beautiful things was that of the 12 people that were looking to stay in the park, that we provided services to, 9 out of 12 of them are still inside of the units that we were able to secure for them back in last September. That's a 75% success rate. If we had a 75% success rate across the board with homelessness in the city of Barrie, I think everyone would be pretty happy, including the individuals who are living in that way. So there's a lot that's going on the enforcement side, but there's also these services that we've created that are allowing these individuals to get out of that lifestyle and to move forward. And I think there's some great announcements coming forward in the next few weeks here from the County of Simcoe to be able to deliver on those things that the province has stepped up to the plate and funded, and the things that I've been asking along with the Mayor of Brantford, Kevin Davis. We lobbied incredibly hard, got letters writing, organized the mayors to ensure that we could move forward as a province in tackling this very important issue.
Excellent. So we do have to go to break, but when we come back, perhaps you want to touch on another recent announcement that came regarding housing. You talked about moving and finding some accommodation for those members and the 75% success rate. There's another recent announcement, so stay with us. When we come back from this break, more with Mayor Alex Nuttall as we talk about more efficient and effective progress towards delivering on that quality of life for all residents in the city of Barrie. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Barrie City on the Move. Mayor Alex Nuttall and I are having a great conversation around progress that the City Council and the city as a whole have been making towards delivering on those promises and those commitments to improve the quality of life in the city of Barrie. And part of that is acting with intention, effectively, efficiently. And the first order of business was getting the finances in order to make sure that those projects could move forward sustainably, viably. Let's pick up. We talked in the first segment really around first laying out what that should look like, and maybe some things that had been collecting dust that were no longer relevant, putting them aside and deciding to let those go, to act more intentionally with what the call is for today. We also talked about the City Guardian program and developing relations with the business owners and enhancing and really bringing a police presence, a friendly, proactive, relationship-building, community-building police presence into the city of Barrie that gives confidence to the store owners, the proprietors, those who frequent those locations, the pubs, the bars, the storefronts, and those who are actually also living in the downtown and are living rough, as was referenced, and or maybe living in some of the parks, and programs to find them appropriate, adequate, effective alternatives, and a 75% success rate so far with some of those programs. Let's move into the initiative around Barrie Park, as well as a recent announcement regarding housing.
Yeah. So I think at Barrie Park, as I said before the break, we saw a very good result out of moving on Barrie Park, getting the encampments removed. This is a place where we did find weapons, and when I say weapons, I don't just mean pocket knives, I mean real weapons. And a place that was 40 feet from a slide for kids. So they aren't safe places for kids to be playing, that's for sure. And these are spaces that are designed for kids to play in. So I'm really excited that we actually did make that move and that we were able to, provide the help for the individuals in the park, but also make the park safe so that kids can play and enjoy time with their parents and their friends and their brothers and sisters. That was a pretty key moment for me, and really impressed with the outcome in terms of having that housing available. But when you look at what we're going to do next, I mean, when somebody's homeless and you're able to actually step in and provide them services, and this is what the Heart Hub will eventually do. The first step is to provide them the help and get them on their feet and in a secure place, in a shelter, essentially. The next step is to move into transitional housing. We have some announcements coming down the line on transitional housing as well. And that is the place where the individual is going from a shelter to a more semi-permanent structure and lifestyle. After that, you're moving into affordable housing, and that is what's being built over at Rose Street at the old OPP. The county is proceeding with their third affordable housing build. The first one was at Aurelia. I think the second one, Bradford, Barrie was the third, or maybe I'm mixing up the order, but something like that. And it's really encouraging because we're going to have about 200 new units of affordable housing taking place over at Rose Street, which will have a profound impact when you think about the individuals going from that state of homelessness, getting better and getting well, and then being able to go into affordable housing before eventually hopefully getting into market rents and staking out a future of hope and opportunity for themselves in the city of Barrie. So there's some exciting things. I mean, even just across the Bayfield Street from that county project that's being done, we have the SkyDev project, the old YMCA site. And in there, I think there's 50 some odd affordable units going in. And if we could find a way to increase that, we would for sure. So I'm really, encouraged that we're seeing a real production of affordable housing units in a way that we haven't for probably 30 years. The last major affordable housing build was the one I grew up in Mill Creek. So obviously, that's we moved in 1994. I think it opened either in 1993 or 1994, and there hasn't been a major push since then. And we're going to see hundreds and hundreds of new affordable housing units hit the market next year because of the work that we've done over the last couple.
So, Mayor, I actually want to first of all just note the fact that I think it's important that you sort of described the multiple stages. Really, I want to use the word required. To assist somebody, to guide somebody, to help them guide themselves from where they are, perhaps at rock bottom, perhaps suffering, or not perhaps suffering, I haven't been there myself, but suffering, one can only imagine, and to transition and the phases required to regain your life, to regain your sense of purpose, to regain that opportunity for integration. There are lots of ways that you could describe it, and none of them may be accurate from my perspective, and I want to be mindful of that. There are those who undoubtedly say, why doesn't the city just do this? And I think it's important that you took a moment to describe that if it was possible to do it in one step, I'm sure it would be done in one step, but I think studies have proven that there's a huge failure rate when we put unreasonable expectations on somebody who is suffering and who isn't able to care for themselves the way that they once could or would like to, and we need to help them along that way. And so you described that in the various stages.
I think it's important to step back for a second and say, not only who is responsible for what, but what does the law say that in each piece of government's responsible for? If we could, with a stroke of a pen, fund something to clean up downtown, I'd find a way to get that funded, right? Just in one move. The reality is you have a police department that's responsible for policing. You have the County of Simcoe that's mandated by the City of Barrie Act and the Province of Ontario Legislature that is responsible for delivering all the social services. And you have a city that's responsible for bylaws. Now, the previous council made a decision, maybe it was 2 councils ago, I think it was last council, to go in the direction of, okay, well, we're going to ask for an injection site. We know that those injection sites don't work. So last time the city actually stepped into this, before this council, it was to create a place where people can do drugs without any, barriers or rules. And what we've done is we've said, okay, we recognize that this is a siloed world. Underneath the silos of the county and the city and the police department and all that is in the province, I would say, are the social services, which are also siloed, right? And we've said we're going to bring everyone together, and that's what we've done. We've got the RVH leading with the County of Simcoe on the Heart Hub and on the social service side, making it a health issue instead of making it a social issue. If you're treating an individual one at a time, which is the only way that you're going to help individuals get past this, you have to take the perspective that we're going to talk about their mental health and their physical health to be able to provide that stability and the security to move forward as an individual.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the individual stakeholders, organizations regarding the word accountability?
I think that there's not enough transparency in the system for me to even begin to say the word accountability when it comes to social services. It's just not there. Like I don't know if it's by design or if it's because there's so many different stakeholders or that there's so many different funding partners, but it is difficult. Like when you think about the county of Simcoe, you got the province, you got the city, you got the 16 municipalities that are part of the county. There's a lot of different folks putting money into the pie, and then there's a lot of different folks taking money out of the pie. And I'm not there yet on saying that we have a system that I can fully go back to the people of Barrie and say, yes, this is working properly, because I just don't have the transparent information that I'd be looking for.
I appreciate that, and it's a tough statement to make, but it's one I think that you've been wanting to, a message you've been wanting to get out there, so I look forward to what comes next. Let's shift gears a little bit, because we're talking about quality of life in general, and if we can, just want to touch on, and we just got a few minutes before we go to break, but the city has also actively invested in programming to drive revenue, to generate revenue. And one of those areas that maybe didn't get as much love as it could have was basically tourism and entertainment and programming. Touch on that before we go to break. Just 2 minutes.
It's so interesting. This is such, like, we could spend an entire episode on this. The interesting thing is that every time you stay in a hotel room in the city of Barrie, you pay a tax. Right? It's called the MAT, the Municipal Accommodation Tax. And we really haven't used that appropriately over the past number of years to drive tourism or to drive things that our own residents want to see or want to be part of. So we've taken some of those dollars, we've invested with the BIA and the Troubadour Festival. It's got 4 different shows this summer downtown. The idea is to drive people downtown and to get them out to the shops and seeing what beautiful things we have, like J'adore downtown, or we have, there's baby shops there, there's men's clothing stores, women's clothing stores, there's some great cafes and bars and restaurants. And so the whole idea is to let's make the city center a center of community and one that everyone feels good and safe in. And so if you went to Dean Brody last week, you'll have seen that it was packed, it was fun, it was safe, and it was a really nice atmosphere.
Now, tell me, so that's an emotional side, and it was great, and you got people out, and they felt alive, and they were, I mean, I was there. I was there with my one of my daughters, and having a great time. And we also enjoyed some frozen yogurt from Swirly's next door. Perfect. And got to see a lot of people congregating around that. It really was family in all ages, and it was wonderful. There's also a science behind it. There's data behind it. There's economic dollars and drivers behind it. And you have a partnership with Kathleen Traynor at the Tourism Barrie, who's working with you and the city on that. And what are some of the objectives here?
Well, I think number one, the objective is to make sure that we have the hotels full for events that are family friendly. I mean, when you look at youth sports, it's a huge driver, it's a huge economic driver. We don't think about that when we're taking our kids to the soccer, hockey, lacrosse, volleyball, whatever it is tournament. We don't think about the economic impact to municipalities that are hosting them, but there's a huge economic impact. And so Tourism Barrie's really focused on going down that road, and we certainly agree with them, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But the idea, just to come back to what we're doing downtown with Troubadour, the idea that somebody's going to come to our city and then they're going to pay for our city to be able to have family-friendly events downtown without it coming off the tax base is a beautiful thing. And so, again, it comes down to prioritizing how we're spending money to have the best impact for our community going forward. And I think that if we go back after the 4 years, we're going to have this, that, and the other that we can hang our hats on and say we accomplished for the city of Barrie. The biggest accomplishment for this city, for this council, is we're not running in 11 different directions. We're moving as a team, and we are prioritizing in a way that the private sector or the family household would.
Yeah, if you could see your smile, it'd be interesting, actually. Well, when it goes to air, you maybe get a chance to see that. But we're about to go to break. But when we come back from the break, let's talk about the fact that these Troubadour events, the 4 events that you have, they're not in a silo. They're actually also working towards a bigger picture. And that bigger picture is an announcement that we're going to talk about when we come back from the break. So stay with us. More from Mayor Alex Nuttall as we talk about how the city's moving forward. Be right back. Welcome back to Barrie City on the Move, and Mayor Alex Nuttall and I are having a conversation around all the projects that are happening inside the city of Barrie, downtown and city as a whole, to move these initiatives forward that council's been planning on, strategizing on, budgeting for, ensuring sustainability, ensuring viability. And I think it's important to say we're going to cover a lot of ground today. We're covering a lot of subtopics and different projects and different initiatives that are starting to come to fruition, and they're all tied together with one master plan, or maybe not technically a master plan, but council's master plan and strategic plan to deliver quality services and opportunities for residents in the city of Barrie. We were just talking about the successful kickoff to summer with a partnership with Tourism Barrie and the Dean Brody segment of the Troubadour Festival, and there's 3 more coming throughout the summer as well. But that in itself is not sort of in isolation. It's part of working and funding with the MAT municipal accommodation tax and ensuring that we drive economic revenue through tourism into the city of Barrie. And what's coming up?
Well, we have just approved on Wednesday night the next phase of our arts and culture in downtown, which is to get an actual performing arts center done. You'll remember, back in the time that we were on council together, even before that, in the 2000s, I had Bruce Owen coming to council and saying, we need a performing arts center, we need a performing arts center. And I always loved the idea. What I was finding difficult was, like, how do we afford this thing? It's a monstrosity in a nice sense, but it comes with a massive bill. And so what we've been able to do is to go back to the table. We've put it, moved where it was going, which was over by Barrie Central, and we're putting it right down on the water at where the Navy cadets are currently. And what that is going to do is that gives you that whole, like, Sydney feeling when you're looking at the Performing Arts Center right on the water. Now, I don't think it'll be the same, perhaps,
grandiose
look or feel as the Sydney Opera House. But what it will do is put arts and culture at the center of our city, at what I call center ice, right? Bayfield Street and Lakeshore is center ice for the city of Barrie. It's where the water hits the downtown and all of those things. And we've also been able to move that budget, as I said earlier, from $167.5 million down to $75 million, with $92.5 million in savings. It's a really neat project. And one of the coolest parts of this is that for years, like for 20 years, we've had the arts community asking for a performing arts center, and we've had the business community asking for a conference and convention center. And what we've been able to do with the design, which was something that I requested very early on, was that all of the seats inside of the 600-seat theater are able to go down into the floor. And so that 600-seat theater turns into a 1,000-person convention space.
I'm just going to say
like
it's
that.
a Dodge stow-and-go seating in the Dodge Caravan, but that's exactly
right.
what came to mind. But hey, listen, that company went and what's it called?
Revolutionized
the minivan. You're doing that with the Performing Arts Center.
We are, and there's a set. So you've got this major 600-seat theater, which will be kind of the pinnacle of it all. Then you've got another 300-seat theater that will be set up that you can have 300 people and dining at the same time. Think weddings or award ceremonies or dinners for the conventions. But those tables and chairs can move out as well. So all of a sudden you've got this convention space that's not just for 1,000 people. You've got a convention space for 1,500 people. You throw in a cafe, a nice greeting area, a restaurant down on the water, and I think we've got what appears to be a functional facility that won't be a white elephant. And that was important to me when it came to the Performing Arts Center.
Now, in terms of ensuring the programming and the usage of the facility, like you said, it's not just a white elephant. There's a lot of programming currently in the works for that quadrant, and maybe touch on a recent announcement earlier this year that I'm sure will be a partnership of sorts as well.
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, if you look at what's happening in our city center and downtown, yes, we're working through the safety concerns and cleanup on that front, but we're also finding major institutions and governments that are investing in our downtown. When you look at the old transit terminal, we had the province of Ontario announce that they're putting in a regional innovation centre. The first one, I think it was in 14 years that had been announced, was for downtown Barrie, and that's a major investment in entrepreneurialism into the business community by the province of Ontario, and we're incredibly excited. Couldn't be more ecstatic with that. Right below that, in the same building, we have what will be now Lakehead University going in. They also have space up the street. One of the beautiful things that we've encountered with Lakehead coming to Barrie is we thought that we would be starting off kind of really small footprint, around 8,000 square feet. That's grown to 25,000 square feet already, and I think it'll be something you'll see bloom and blossom over the next number of years of finally having university in Barrie, having it in our downtown, having it grown before it even opens, and all of the focus is being on STEM, being on that science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It is huge for the city of Barrie. And then you have Georgian College, and this was the watershed moment when Georgian College said, we're going to invest heavily in Barrie's downtown. I mean, you look what's happening inside of that post-secondary sector for colleges. There's closures, there's reductions in spaces, and what Georgian is doing is they're prioritizing the city of Barrie, they're prioritizing the young people, domestic students here in the city of Barrie. They're investing in our downtown, they're investing in the Georgian College campus, and it's really exciting. So you look at all those things happening, and then we look at the Performing Arts Center and the programming that's happening at Meridian Place, as we've discussed. I think we're on the verge of having a vibrant downtown and city center. Now, that's not the only thing that's happening in our city, but I think it's a very important one that we need to take stock of. We've dreamed about this for years. There's been a lot of plate setting, if you will, to get us here, whether it was Rob Hamilton's campus or others, council or others. But I think as we go forward, you'll see over the next number of years that there's a lot of positive movement down there.
So, and I think one of the concerns previously was the rate of brain drain. People coming to the city of Barrie, getting educated and moving out, and the focus on STEM, and really a collaborative, there's a mutual respect, it appears, between Lakehead and Georgian, that they're not in competition with each other. There's going to be a lot of complementary education and programming delivered there, with the goal that it will be providing the brain trust for future generations of the auto manufacturing, STEM, all those different STEM-dependent and automation-dependent industries right here in the city of Barrie. So, yeah, I agree. It is very exciting. There are some other announcements that we want to talk about, though, as well. We're not done yet. We're not done. We got an action-packed show here full of announcements. But so we got the Performing Arts Center, we've got the college, we've got the university. There's also something happening in the south end of Barrie that's been talked about since early, sort of mid-2000s, call it 2008, 2010, that just never quite came to fruition. There was a lot of at-bats and swings and misses, I guess, and you've managed to pull that through.
Well, we, in 2008, I was a city councillor for Ward 10. I moved a motion to add the Southeast Rec Centre to the capital plan. It was supposed to be built in 2013 and 14. We announced 3 weeks ago that we secured the land to build the facility on. I mean, it's sad that it didn't happen. It's frustrating it didn't happen, but you know, there's a little bit of smile on my face because, you know, I moved the motion back then, and now I'm able to be part of the council that's delivering on it. So we're incredibly excited for a new 4-pad facility over at the corner of Mackay Road and Huronia. It'll include 3 gymnasiums. It includes, I think it's 3 or 4 swimming pools. There'll be fields for play, soccer, cricket, baseball, football, lacrosse, all on that center site. And we're going to be putting about 40% of it, it looks like. I mean, it could be a little more, could be a little less, but 40% of it into conservation as well. So there's a ton that's happening there. It took way too long to get a rec center built. And when you think about what's happening with that rec center, the YMCA that's going to be built well in advance of that, we have some real investments happening in the parts of our community, the residential areas of our community that have young families, to allow for people to be able to go and enjoy their time at the gym, at the pool, playing hockey. And it also feeds into that plan with Tourism Barrie that we're talking about, where we can actually host these hockey tournaments with Barrie Minor Hockey or Barrie Minor Soccer, whoever it is, right? And so it's all coming together, I think, on the recreation front. Massive investment, $350 million, but we've actually done it in a way that's brought two future rec centers into one and saved about $80 million through that process.
Yeah, no, and you did, I'm glad you brought that up. We did talk about it. The city, by the way, just in terms of what is an expectation of the types of facilities and capacity to serve the public based on the city of Barrie's current and projected growth, how are we tracking?
Well, I think that we suffered greatly by not having the YMCA and not having these rec centers built. So, the YMCA is under construction right now at Sadlon Arena. That's going to provide some great capacity. One of the difficult things we have going forward on capacity is that we've got to at some point shut down Allendale Rec Center to provide for either an expansion or to provide for a renovation of some kind. We've got to bring that up to date, and we won't do that until the YMCA is at least completed to allow for some capacity to be created before we shut down Allendale. It was built in, I think it was '67, as part of the centennial dollars. Actually, no, I'm lying. It was built in the '80s, and if you think about it, we haven't put in a real investment there since. So once we have all of these complete, whether it's a renovation of Allendale, the YMCA, or the new rec center built, I think we'll be in a fairly good place. But it's very difficult to get your kids in swimming lessons right now. It's very difficult to get gym space. It's very difficult to just enjoy these rec centers that our tax dollars pay for because of how little capacity we have in comparison with the residential growth we've seen over the years.
Yeah, well, we have to go to break, but when we come back, I do want to talk to you and get your feedback. We've touched on it before, maybe a refresher on why it makes sense to be able to have both a city-run facility and an independently run facility through the Y, and why it makes sense to be able to do
absolutely.
that. So let's come back to that, but stay with us. More from Mayor Alex Nuttall right after this break. Welcome back to Barrie City on the Move, and we've been talking about projects and just really shovels in the ground and moving forward on those priorities that were identified at the beginning of this term. And we've covered a ton of ground, Mayor Nuttall. I'm glad you're here. Thanks. Let's keep it going. Just at the end of the last segment, we started talking about both the South End rec center, which is both cost saving but like long overdue. I think you said you brought it forward originally in about 2008, and you're thrilled to be a part of seeing it come to fruition in this term, or start to come to fruition in this term. But we also talked about a project already underway in the South End right beside the Sadlon Arena, and that is the YMCA's project, and how that is going to allow for the city to then go and do some rehabilitation or development on Allendale Rec Center. That's a bit of a summary. Let's talk about that, though. Really the reason and the justification why it makes sense to have two different operators providing similar but not same services.
Well, I think it's important to recognize the value the YMCA brings to the table. It's different than our city services. It's really a volunteer board that works with an organization that provides immigration support services. Included in that are the youth haven services that are going into the site. The accessibility for individuals is, I think, just more enhanced than strictly a public service. Having said that, we do provide programming for individuals who can't afford to put their kids into camps or swimming lessons or anything like that, but it's not to the same degree at which the YMCA is able to deliver. And I'll give you an example. When I was a kid, going to camps at the YMCA, like I had a free YMCA membership. My parents could put me in camps. They could get on the bus and drop me off there. And that was just something that I found incredibly valuable. Like I still remember camp counselors' names, so it must have had a major impact on me and my summer and what was going on. And so I think the YMCA has an immense amount of value, and I think they're going to bring that to the community as they go forward. But it's different than what the city does. Like the YMCA doesn't operate pads of ice. They don't provide space for hockey tournaments and those types of things. And so it's important that they do what they do. It's also important that the city provide these other things to be able to move forward with increasing capacity for people who live in the city of Barrie, but also to invite folks for tournaments and things like that to create that economic impact.
Mm-hmm. And I think you touched on that maybe in the first or second segment, where you identified the fact that in any venture there are different stakeholders, different players, and that part of moving forward and building something that is resilient is understanding the different opportunities that each stakeholder has, the different legislation that each works within, the different composition, and a YMCA being a not-for-profit and I presume it's charitable organization is different from a city facility that has its own operating overhead, capital costs, and a model for cost recovery, et cetera, that the YMCA doesn't have. So thanks for clarifying. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's important, Arif, to remember. I don't know how many people were in the city of Barrie when you were elected in, where was it, 12 or 13?
Yeah, 130 maybe.
I don't think it was even that.
Much,
like when I was in 06, when I was elected, I think it was in the neighborhood of 95 to 100,000.
Right.
Maybe it was a little bit beyond that. Maybe it was 110. We've had 56,000 new people move to our community. So just like to put it in perspective, if it was 110,000, 56,000 is essentially a 50% increase in population. In that time, what new rec centers have we had come in place? We haven't. We've actually had a reduction because the YMCA sold their land and we're looking for a new facility. So when you think about that, we've gone up by 56,000 people or 50,000 people or 70,000 people, whatever the real number is. And at the same time, we've had a reduction in recreation facilities available to the public. Like, that's a massive problem. You're not going to fix it by just creating another Y that existed back then when we were talking about building this facility in the South End. You're going to fix it by building the facility in the South End and doing the YMCA, because that's what existed when we made this recreation plan to move forward, right? So there's a big gap there. There's a big gap.
Yeah, well, one of the things that you talked about, speaking of gaps, because it has been an initiative, it's been important on the minds of many people. There are a lot of people who love our setting, our waterfront, our nature. I mean, a lot of people, you don't mess with our parks, right? That's definitely on the minds of people. But this council has also made it a priority to start a conservation trust. And we've heard over the last few weeks and months announcements regarding certain areas that became designated. But you touched on it, that's why I'm going there. With the creation and the development of the new recreation facility in the south end of Barrie, there's also a conservation component there. Talk to us about what's going on.
Yeah, there's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 50% of that property that is not developable, that is, should be set aside for conservation and for trails and things like that for the public to be able to use. I mean, when you look around our city, we've got beautiful portions of our city, Hewitt's Creek and Lovers Creek and the Bear Creek wetlands and Ardagh Bluffs and Sunnydale Park and Little Lake, and there's more, and I'm just going off the cuff here, that actually aren't even on our waterfront, right? When you add the waterfront, you got the Gables, you got Allendale Station Park, these passive pieces that we don't really do a lot to take care of, right? They're there, they're kind of used by the public, but we don't really have the capacity at City Hall to go in and to really groom those and make those what they should be, to both protect the habitats of whatever species are there, but to also make it a nice functional place and a safe place for families to enjoy, whether it's cycling or walking or running or whatever it is that you do. And so that's an important piece, I think, is let's put this land into a permanent conservation so that no one can ever develop these properties, that they'll be there for the next 100 years, for the next 3 generations of folks that are coming through. And at the same time, let's make them functional. I'll give you an example. Like when I was out after the ice storm, I was out going for a walk with my wife, and as we were going through the Ardagh Bluffs, we came across 2 separate couples that were using saws and things to clean up the trails. And I stopped and talked to both of them and just said, thank you so much for doing that. And I thought, like, what's the route for them to get involved in being, individuals that take care of our public spaces? Well, there isn't one right now. And so the gap is you've got a city piece of property that's either taken care of by the city or left not to, or you've got like a full park that the city does take care of. How do we bridge these things? And I came to the conclusion it's not the city, it's actually a conservation trust where individuals can volunteer, we can raise money for it, we can put in bridges. I mean, remember that bridge that we were talking about over at Donald Park?
Yep.
Right? $40,000 to bridge across 2.5 feet of creek or 3.5 feet of creek. And that just doesn't make sense to me, right? So is there a capacity for us to put these things inside of a conservation trust, to have individuals come, volunteer their time, and get places like Home Hardware, Home Depot, Rona, and others to come in and donate wood and supplies, and make it usable and safe in a way that it isn't today. And so I think that there's a lot of benefit both to the environment as well as to the quality of life of the residents in the city of Barrie.
And there's a lot of currency in saying thank you, and there are a lot of people who find value in their volunteerism. So I think that's a great opportunity there for corporate citizenship and philanthropy as well as civic engagement. So now we are on the, we got so much we've covered, and you're going to have to come back. But let's take the next just couple of minutes and talk about a quick roads update, because we're done with winter, we're into construction season, and moving traffic, and we've talked about the Performing Arts Center, we've talked about the rec facilities. We need to move the population. What's going on, Mayor Nuttall?
Well, we've got pretty massive investments in roads. If you think about Brine Drive that's come on, we still need to get that north piece of Brine Drive completed between Harvey Road and Essa. I think that'll have an immense impact to the south end of the city of Barrie. I live in that neighborhood. It would certainly allow for a more free flowing of traffic, both north-south on the west side of the 400, but also east-west across the 400 with Harvey Road. I think Harvey's maybe a little underutilized at the moment. It has a huge capacity to be able to move traffic back and forth. And when you look at Mackay Road and the infrastructure improvements we're doing there, it's about an $80 million project. We went to the province of Ontario and said, we can't afford to do the $80 million project, but if you could come to the table, we could probably get it done. The province, to their credit, Premier Ford and Minister Khanjin stepped up with $34.5 million to allow that project to take place. So you're going to see major improvements along Huronia Road and across Mackay. There's all types of road reconstructions happening that, I'll tell you this, I ran on the idea that we need to fix the roads, right? It was a euphemism for getting the things done, but really it was also just fix the roads. And we've been doing that, and you'll see that on Grove Street and Duckworth Street and St. Vincent Street and Mapleview Drive, and we've got Gunn Street and others that we talked about for 10 years getting done are just being done now, and they're completed. And so there's been a lot of investment happening outside of our core around the city to help traffic get around the city. And you'll see that continue. Part of that was making sure that we funded it properly by changing the capital plan.
Excellent. 1 minute. We got, so this will go to air before Canada Day. What are your thoughts for Canada Day?
Well, first of all, we live in the best country in the world. There's nowhere else I'd rather live. I come here from another place, and I wouldn't have the same opportunity that I have in Canada, and quite frankly, right here in the city of Barrie. So Canada Day is the most beautiful thing. We need to really dig in and recognize it this year. We need to be proud of who we are, and we need to make sure that we are determining our own future for forever to come. And so Take the moment. Take the moment.
Keep your eyes in the sky, because in time for Canada Day, this just big statement of Canadian pride is going to be coming up right behind the police campus.
100%. 165-foot flag. The flag itself will be 30 by 70 feet, and Skydev stepped up and paid for it all. So we're incredibly excited and proud of that. And when you're driving through Barrie, you'll know that you're in the most beautiful country in the world.
Excellent. Mayor Nuttall, thanks for taking time for us today, and wish you the best for the summer and Canada Day, and we'll see you again next time on Barrie City on the Move. Take care.